you know this. Donald Trump is a notoriously difficult client. When a lawyer takes him on, they know what they are getting into. So how do they actually handle him? And what might Todd Blanche be advising Donald Trump, knowing that he can only influence and not control him? Joining us now, former member of President Donald Trump's legal defense team during the president's first Senate impeachment trial in 2020, Robert Ray. Ray also led the Office of the Independent Counsel from 1999 to 2002, during which time he investigated and issued a report on the Whitewater controversy. Good to have you.
Thanks
All right.
for having me.
So we know who Donald Trump is. So this idea that, you know, he's a nightmare client, I think that's kind of baked in. He doesn't do what you ask him to.
Not always.
If you're Donald Trump's lawyer, if you're Todd Blanche right now, what are you saying to him about these gag orders or the gag order and the judge at this moment?
I think that your initial difficulty is dealing with a judge who is saying to you as a lawyer that you are losing all credibility with the court. I can tell you that that's happened to me. It does happen on occasion, hopefully not too often. And my reaction to that is, I'm sure what Todd Blanche's reaction is, which is I'm not going to be so easily intimidated by the court or by anybody else. On the other hand, you're also going back to your client to say, look, this is kind of where things stand. And
where do things stand?
And it's getting more difficult. And I think, as we had discussed at the beginning, it's one thing to have sort of pretrial skirmishes over feeling out everybody's relative position and how far you can push things. Once the jury is sworn and the case begins and testimony starts and witnesses are in play, the court's toleration for too far outside of the lines is heightened, and the court will take action. So I think what you're trying to impress upon your client is be careful. Now, on the other hand, you know, Donald Trump didn't choose to bring this case, and Donald Trump didn't choose to bring this case in the middle of an election cycle. So Donald Trump is right that he is, you know, allowed to both defend himself in the political process and affirmatively go on the attack. So a court is going to be in a very difficult position. I mean, I understand that you've explored with other guests how far things can be pushed and what might happen, and there might be a contempt citation and there might be fines imposed. And there might even be consideration of the ultimate sanction, which is to put or attempt to put the former president into custody as a penalty for noncompliance with a gag order. That obviously has some pretty severe implications, and it'll also cause that trial to stop in its tracks because Donald Trump will be able to appeal that and get relief from an appellate court. So I just tell
Another
you,
delay.
it is not a desirable result, even from the judge's standpoint. You're putting a jury on hold. You're subjecting them to review in the political process by those who correctly are allowed to continue to probe for undisclosed biases, which is what this is all about with regard to jurors. I mean, have they been completely forthcoming about whether they can actually be fair in a trial like this?
So you're saying that if the judge puts him into custody, it's going to throw a wrench into the process?
Unavoidably.
Unavoidably.
Even if he's right.
Even if he's right.
Even if he's, I should say, even if he's justified.
It's a
tough call.
thing to do.
It's a very, I mean, I think you have to, I mean, I know Todd Blanche said this, like, you know, common sense. I mean, part of this is common sense. Part of it is, you know, forget about what the law is. Let's just think about control of your courtroom in a high-profile case during the middle of a presidential campaign. Is there any precedent for that? The answer is absolutely no.
No.
So everybody's trying to do their best
part
here.
Of the reason why it's here is because of delays that were pushed by the defense team. So that's part of the reason why it's happening in this particular moment.
Hard to say that with regard to this prosecution. You make that argument maybe with regard to some of the other prosecutions.
They delayed a few times.
This one was brought after it was turned down by Cy Vance's office, after the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York passed on it. And then Alvin Bragg got it on a campaign promise that he would tackle Donald Trump. And then they brought the case, and it's unavoidable based upon when it was brought, which was a year ago, right?
Yeah, but Robert,
that it would be on trial this year.
Let me put that aside for now, but I really want to ask you, because I haven't been in a position to ever observe this. No one has, except for a handful of people. When you were talking face-to-face with Donald Trump and advising him in a legal context, and I know the impeachment isn't a legal context like this. It's different. It's political more. But when you're advising him in a legal context, how do you get through to him in particular?
Just like you
when he's in the middle of especially when politics are so deeply entwined in the process?
I think you account for just the things that you're talking about, like you would have a conversation with anybody else. You know, being a lawyer doesn't mean you're just some sort of separate being on the planet Earth.
No, I know, but Donald Trump is not like everybody else.
Right.
He's different.
And I think that's why you try to bring it home to the things that every person can understand, even a former president of the United States who's currently running for office, by acknowledging the great amount of pressure that he is under in his ability to have sufficient space to respond in a political environment while abiding by the rules. Look, a judge's primary concern is to protect witnesses and to protect the integrity of a trial. But Donald Trump also has legitimate interests, too, and you're trying to balance those. And you're trying to suggest to the client that there may be a point at which there's a collision. And also, I think Todd Blanche is probably telling him, if there is a collision, you can't necessarily predict what that result will be. And that may be a result that may not be in your interest.
So here are the parameters. Here's how far I think you can push it. If you go past this, it's out of my hands. I can't control what the judge might do.
Right. And you know, the ultimate result here is that you want to achieve the best chance that you can at a trial for an acquittal. And you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. And it comes with consequence, too, in the middle of this, to throw a monkey wrench into something.
You likely want to tell them that what you're doing in court may have an effect on the jury and may have a negative effect on the jury that could push them in the direction of a conviction.
And I think it's the unexplained or the unknown consequences that you're most worried about.
Yeah.
Be careful what you do, because you may lose control over this, and it may go in a direction that you're not able to safely predict. I think that's the advice that you would give anyone. Wouldn't that be the advice you would give? I mean, I think so. And It's not a lawyer's advice. It's just being someone who is a trusted person close to the president, who has his best interests at heart, and you remind him of that. And I'm trying to give you the benefit of my best legal advice.
I still think that if I were in this position, I would want a lawyer's advice, not just any person advice. I would want a lawyer's advice. Bob, I'm going to have to leave it there.
Yep, sure. A lawyer's a friend.
We are heavy. Bob Bray, thank you very much for joining us, as always.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.